Good day and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I'm your host, the voice of reason. So on my map, you can see the United States Military Academy at West Point. And this is where the officer corps of the United States Army is developed, trained, and then sent to their units once their training, their 4-year course of study is complete. And obviously there are other academies as well. You have the Air Force Academy, you have the Naval Academy at Annapolis, Maryland, where the Marine Corps and naval personnel go. And then you have the other academies as well, such as the Citadel, Virginia Military Institute, and even Texas A&M puts out soon-to-be officers. But I had the opportunity of interviewing two senior non-commissioned officers inside of the United States Army. And the senior non-commissioned officer, the non-commissioned officers, really are the core leadership inside of the United States Army. And they can really give you a very good idea of the culture that is currently in place inside of the United States Army. And I can tell you, after having this interview and walking away, I was dumbfounded. I was in shock. I was in horror. I got to tell you, very dismayed. And I guess I was not really of the understanding of just how much the warrior culture, the warrior ethos inside, especially the U.S. Army, has changed from my time in the Army of the United States. But these two gentlemen were able to give me some perspective. They both had been in the military for excess of 10 years and are still active duty personnel. But the explanation, the awareness of just how much the woke culture, the politically correct culture, has infiltrated the armed forces, the Army, is incredible. Now, these two gentlemen did say that while the Army is now becoming inundated with this wokeism, with this far leftist doctrine, the United States Marine Corps still maintains, would appear to maintain, its warrior ethos and is not migrating towards what the Army is currently doing. And let me first say this: wherever you stand on the political equation, are you left? Are you far left? Are you in the middle? Are you right? Are you far right? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You have to separate the United States military from society. Now, granted, it is made up of members of society, but the United States military, the military in general, is designed to protect society from an external threat and even possibly from itself in some cases. And you can have a society that is debauched, that is libertine in nature, that is, even you could define it as simply bat shit crazy. But you cannot take that libertinism, you cannot take that liberalism, and you cannot transpose that to the military. You have to keep the military separate because it serves one mission, and that is to protect the country. The country can do whatever it wants in terms of its civilian society. Now, you will have elements of varying degrees really all over the place, and that's completely fine. It's a democracy. It's a representative republic based on democratic ideals. But you cannot take this far left neoliberal libertinism and then transpose that into the military and expect the military to maintain its core readiness and its warrior ethos and to be able to engage and destroy an enemy, especially an enemy or an opposition force who is not also indoctrinated by this wokeism. So let me try to explain kind of what is occurring inside of the military that has my concern. So one of the first things that was said that if I was aware that male military personnel can paint their fingernails any color that they wished. I was not aware of that. So again, the whole concept of the military is being uniformed, uniformity. Everyone is the same. No one is different. Everyone, there's not black, there's not white, there's not yellow, there's not, we are all green. And when you start to fragment that uniformity by allowing some groups to become ununiformed, then you're going to have a breakdown in the force structure. Women in the armed forces, in the Army, specifically inside of combat arms units. Now, we've always been under this impression, let's have women in the military if they can pass the same standards as the men. Unfortunately, what is going on is they're now saying, well, we are going to have different standards. We are going to decrease the standards. We are going to decrease the readiness. We are going to decrease the abilities, both of endurance-related testing, physical strength-related testing, that would then allow women to enter these combat role positions. And when you do that, when you decrease the abilities, when you decrease the standards, when you decrease endurance, speed, strength, your force degrades. And that's exactly what is happening. So for instance, let's say a tank unit, okay? The loader position inside of a main battle tank is usually the lead-in role of the tank or that of the driver. And in the role of the tank loader, you're required to open a blast door and remove a very heavy 120 millimeter main gun round and load that main gun round into the breech of a cannon. And you have to do that over and over again. It requires strength and it requires endurance. And unfortunately, some of the reports that I'm receiving is they are lowering some of those standards. And again, it really kind of runs throughout the entire force in terms of the desire to create a mirror image of society and then transpose that onto the military. And that is what is hurting the United States Army warrior culture currently. We are seeing people who are joining the Army with one intent, and that is to be able to have the ability to have paid gender reassignment. The Army is now paying service members who wish to have sex changes. And I don't even know what to say to that. I really don't. And we are a volunteer military, and normally when persons join the U.S. military, it's for one of two things, or possibly a combination of both. One, there's a deep patriotic desire to serve the nation, and at the same time, they gravitate for the possible machoism of being in a combat arms unit. It's cool. You're young. You're a male. It's just something that that would gravitate someone towards that sort of job. Now, you also have that other segment who is looking to join the military. They possibly want to go, maybe they don't want to be in combat arms, but they want to be, they want to have the opportunity maybe to serve their country, and at the same time obtain money for a college education. And that was one thing that concerned me when I was in the military, was seeing that you would have personnel that were joining for that one reason, to obtain money and to be able to go to college. I get it, I understand it, and they usually gravitated towards some other military occupational specialty that didn't center on combat arms. It was maybe with supply. That was my interaction with them. I'm just here to get my college money and get the hell out. And that was unfortunate, because that was not why I joined the military. And that's why a lot of people don't join the military, is just not for that. Now there's a third issue, is to come in and now have some sort of medical process that you would not ordinarily be able to afford if you were not in the military. And that's incredibly scary, because these folks can join, they can go through the process of that gender reassignment, and usually they then exited the service. They try to find a way to get out, and usually that results in some sort of dishonorable discharge or some other discharge remedy. And inherently, from this interview that I had, there's a lot of this going on. There is a deep corruption that is occurring inside of the United States military, and no one really understands why the political entity, the political leadership that is directing this, is trying to make this occur. And it's frightening. It's frightening for a lot of those military personnel who are inside of the United States military and had been in the military for the last 10, 15, 16 years. Maybe they're looking at hitting that 20-year and possibly retiring. But they are now seeing a military and an army that is much, much different than the army that existed 10, 15, 20 years ago. And talking to these gentlemen, they explained to me that I wouldn't even understand it. It has changed so radically, and there is more radicalization that is ongoing with the political change inside the United States that is currently underway or has happened, but we're kind of seeing it really being pushed hardcore right now. And again, it was just something that was incredibly disturbing to me. Inside of, so for instance, when you're in the Army, they have to recreate uh, a certain amount of stress. Now, they can't create the same stress that one would get inside of a combat operation, but you have to get as close as you can to see what how those personnel react, and then try to condition those personnel to operate in a very stressful environment. So from my understanding now is that when you're in basic training, your drill sergeant can only make you do 5 push-ups. So if you were to do something that was incorrect, and we called it getting smoked in the Army. Now getting smoked entails the no more than 5 push-ups. Apparently you're able to pull out a stress card when someone is yelling at you and declare that you're under too much stress, and no one can say anything to you after that occurs. And again, this is designed to attract those personnel who could not ordinarily serve inside the military under this notion of diversity and inclusion. And remember, the root word of diversity is to divide. So, good, bad, and different, when you say that, we celebrate diversity. What you're saying is we celebrate division. So think about that for a second. But this whole concept of this inclusion environment that is being moved into the military is going to eventually destroy the force. The United States military, the Army, I don't know what it looks like in the other services right now. I haven't had the opportunity to directly interview, say, a person in the Navy or the Air Force, as I did with these two gentlemen. And if we were to, and this is their opinion from what they're seeing internally, if we were to engage a near peer or a significant enemy, such as maybe the Russian Federation, the People's Republic of China, we could be in trouble, especially a force-on-force, ground force-on-force that would require this this diversity and inclusion woke military against a military that still has a devout warrior culture. Inside of the Russian military, they are doing things like they have done in the past, and that is create that toughened warrior culture. When you take that warrior culture away, and it becomes a segment of a debauched society, you're going to get beat. Hands down, you're going to get knocked down until you're able to have that force work that soft element of the force out of the military, whether they're killed or they're just removed. And unfortunately, that would be other members of the military as well, especially if it's a force-on-force engagement in open warfare. And the only thing that I can think that the military is just relying on its technology to overcome any sort of adversity or force, and does not believe at this point that it needs that warrior ethos. And I, again, deeply concerned, just going back when I was in the military and how my brothers in our combat arms unit, how we talked to each other. I mean, it was a really crude environment at times, but that's what guys do. And especially young guys, 18, 19, 20-year-old men, it's just different. And I could not imagine now having females in these units saying some of the things that we said and some of the things that we did that kind of created that camaraderie. And that's gone. And again, what I'm hearing is a lot of that masculinity is being squeezed out of the force. They don't want it. They, at the same time, I'm also hearing that having combat experience, and there's a lot of folks inside of the Army that have a tremendous amount of combat experience, whether it be in Afghanistan or Iraq, but those personnel are not being given the benefit of that combat experience. If you have a master's degree in some sort of liberal arts degree, that is holding more weight than 3 tours in Iraq. And I'm not sure how that is even rational. I don't. And these 2 gentlemen that I interviewed held the same opinion. Yep, you can have 3 tours in Iraq and a tour in Afghanistan, have been deployed 4 times, and it doesn't matter. What matters is, are you politically correct? Are you possibly going through these organizations and these institutions of Marxist and leftist and wokeism indoctrination, i.e. colleges? They're really trying to press military personnel to enter into colleges, and I do not believe that it's for educational purposes. I think it's for re-educational purposes. And that should concern everybody. I'll talk more on this at some point, but I just wanted to talk about this a bit, and it was just incredibly concerning. And again, wherever you sit on the side of this issue, whether you're left, where you're right, in the middle, the military is different. It has to be different. It cannot mirror society, especially if that society is becoming ununiformed, if that makes sense. Because the military, the Army, these are the only forces that really protect society and allow it to do whatever it wants to do. Society can do that. But the only thing that allows society to do that without having an external entity come in and then tell you what you're going to do is to have that force structure in place that protects the country, that allows the country to be what it wants to be. But you cannot let the military just be what it wants to be. I hope that makes sense. Have a good day, everybody.